All right. Okay, so yesterday we have finished off with all of the pivot tables, the pivot charts and things like that. We'll try to, if we have time today, just do a quick recap on that for those of you that didn't get everything very quite well yesterday. We can do a quick review just to make sure that you are up to speed. And today we're going to be taking it a little bit higher by looking at macros. What are macros? What is VBA? And what's all that about? Okay. Now, macros are well, there are some kind of, code snippets that help us to do some of these activities that we do in Excel automatically. Okay. So the way it works is Excel will record the actions that you have taken when when you're making a certain kind of procedure. It will record all the steps and then you can come back and play the steps that you have recorded, and it will just happen instantly. Okay. Let me show you what that is, and let me also introduce you to the macros screen. You should have the developer tab turned on for this one. If you don't have the developer tab, if you remember in the first class, you could go into customize the ribbon and you will see all the tabs in the main tabs in the ribbon, and then you can make sure that this one called developer is activated. Okay. Normally, by default, it's not, so you may not see it on your Excel version. But if you just went to customize the ribbon and clicked on this and click on OK, you will have it there. And then in this tab, you have command groups, code, add-ins, controls, XML. Okay. Most of our time will be spent in code and controls today. So, well, this is the thing I was telling you about that, macros can be recorded. Okay. And then after recording the macro, you can see the macros here. You can see I have some macros I had recorded before now. I'll just delete them for now. Delete macro, um, rows and delete. Okay. So now I don't have any macros, as you can see. Okay. Let's record a few macros just to get you already moving with macros so you can see what it's all about. So for that, I prepared this data here and I prepared a number of tasks that we can do, right? And then we can try to automate those tasks and see how it works. So the first one here is, and this is our normal list that we have used over and over again in this course. The first one here says to record a macro that formats a raw data table. This one, so this is just raw, no formatting, no style or anything like that. Okay. And well, it says to make the headers bold, to bold the headers, and to auto fit the widths, and also to apply borders to the data range. We will first of all do this manually while recording, okay? And then after, we will come back and play that record and watch the macro happen automatically, and all of the styling that we will add to this will just happen automatically, okay? Let's do that. So first, to record a macro, you'll see this record a macro command here. You can also see it at the bottom of your status bar down here, okay? And you can, if you don't have it, if you right click, you will see macro recording. So you just need to make sure that this check mark is there, and you will see the record macro button here, okay? So I'm going to start recording now. I'll click on record macro, and now it kind of gives me, a dialog box that asks me for the name of my macro. it's kind of telling me that I can use macro 14, but that's because on this sheet I had, done a few macros before now. I can call it task one, for example, task one. So macros, you cannot leave spaces or anything like that in the name. Okay. And here you can also just assign your macro a short key so that you can play your macro by just typing control, I don't know, control O or control G or control whatever on your keyboard, as long as it's not one of the already defined Excel controls, then you can use it here. And it's asking you where you want to store the macro. Of course, we want it in this workbook. Okay, and you can also give it a description. I'll leave those blank for now. Just only select the macro name and click on OK. Now, before I click on OK, watch this symbol right here. It will change to kind of a stop button because it would have moved from, the start to indicate to you that it is now recording the macro. So I click OK, and now you can see now it says stop. Like this is a stop icon, and you can also see it up here, stop recording, because it is indeed recording now. But it will only record something when I make an action on this sheet. So the first action I'll make is to make the headers bold. Okay, so I'll highlight them, go to home, bold. And then I will auto fit the widths. The widths actually look good, but to auto fit widths, you can highlight all of them and just double click on any of the edges just to, yeah, I don't know if you saw that small movement, right? And then it's asking us to apply borders to the range. So here you can highlight all by typing Control A on your keyboard and setting all borders from here. Or you can also right click and go to format and go to border and do it from here. It's exactly the same thing. So we've done the three tasks. Now we are done with our macro. We can stop recording from here or from here. Doesn't matter. I'll use this one this time around. And now it's back to the default icon. And our macro is recorded. Now, how can we find the recorded macro? That's where you will have to click on this macros icon here. And now you can see the macro that we created just now. And you can see now that the run button is activated, meaning it's telling us now that we can run this macro. Okay. Now let's see if it's true that all these three steps that we have applied and recorded, if they will happen automatically. But first, I will just sort of revert it back to the way it was before by removing the border. So no border, removing the bold, and just sort of mess it up a little bit, the widths. And let's see if it will auto resize the widths as well. So as I said, to run the macros, you go to developer, you click on macros, you select your macro, and you click on run. And I should expect to see all the things I did happen right now. Oop. And there you go. You see? So it has done all of these three steps automatically for me. And it's as simple as that, huh? Now, if you want to see, because this is all code, this is all based on programming. So actually, it has done some kind of programming in the background. If you want to see it, that's what this Visual Basic editor is for. You can see when I hover my mouse on that, it says open the Visual Basic editor. Okay. If I click on that, then it brings me to this, well, kind of code looking window that tells me that this is my task one macro, and this is the code that Excel has automatically created. And you can actually read it. It's not so difficult to read. Of course, VBA requires some experience for you to fully understand what all of these things are. But you can already see here that it kind of says it's selecting that range. So this range A4 to F4 select. Remember, what I had done here was to highlight all of these and then I made them bold. So what the macro recorder has done is it has selected all of these in VBA, okay? Like this, select, okay? I'll just resize this a little bit. Yeah, bring it up. Yeah. And then it made it bold. You can see selection, font, bold is true. That means it has made it bold. And then it again selects AF and selects the entire area, the entire column, which is what I did when I selected everything. And then there's a bunch of select, 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 and then there's C8 activate and so on. But in the end, what it actually did was you can see it has done a border, right? It has said the selection border should be continuous, should be that, should be thin, and so on, right? But this essentially just pretty much adds the border, right? But then it's adding the border to the edge left. So Excel edge left. So left side, top side, bottom, right side, and then inside. So that's the essentially to draw all of the borders that you see here in Excel. So that's what the code has done. So if you really understood a little bit about VBA, well, you don't even need to understand it too much to be able to read this code because it's mostly self-explanatory. You'll be able to also come in here and, if the macro recording didn't go so well, maybe some things were not necessary to be recorded, you could as well just come here and update them. So for example, all these select, maybe not so necessary. A few adjustments could be done to improve the code, but it works. It's perfect. It's a really good start for those of you that will be interested in doing more complex VBA operations. I do it all the time. If I don't know how to go about something in VBA, I first record it and see how the recorder has done it, and then I adapt what the recorder has done into my own code to make it work the way I want it to.
I have a question.
Yes.
Um, the VBA is there like a syntax or what's like a prerequisite of some other programming languages for one to, if I really
No,
want to understand, get into this?
no, it's Visual Basic. Visual Basic is a programming language of its own.
Okay.
Right? And
Yeah.
but VBA, this Visual Basic for applications, okay? And you can and this one, the version that you can write in Excel is the one that is used in Excel. You can also have VBA for Access, and you also
Okay.
have Visual Basic for making Windows applications. So it's a language of its own, and there are no prerequisites. You can just go ahead and start learning it from scratch.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Mhm. But again, as I said, this recorder will help you tremendously as a beginner in VBA. It'll just pretty much write the code for you according to your actions, right? And then you can come back and clean it up as you wish when you have, of course, learned how to use VBA. Okay, good. Any other question?
I'm lost.
You are lost.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
if you were recording the macros just now with this file, and
Mhm.
it means that okay, I'm telling it what to do to this file, right? Like this is what
Okay.
I want you to
Mhm.
input for me on this file. But I
Yes.
have manually done it already
Mhm.
while telling the macro to record it.
Mhm.
Why do I need the macro when I have already done it manually?
It's just to speed up your operation. If
Okay.
you had to make this kind of report every day, for example, and send it to your
Mm,
boss, then
mm,
this will save you a ton of time. If you could just quickly just play the macro and it'll just organize the data for you instantly. We'll do a few more examples and you'll see how more use cases for macros, right?
Okay.
The
Okay.
idea is to make your activities fast, to make them happen real fast. Let's try the second one to record a macro that creates a pivot table. If you remember yesterday when we talked about pivot tables, you can also know that it takes quite a bit of steps to make a pivot table. Let's see. I'll just add a few more columns there. Let's see, it says record that creates a pivot table. And then, so select the range and start a pivot table. Make sure the pivot table is in the same sheet. Okay, yeah, this one, because if we created it in a different sheet and you try to play the macro, it'll generate an error. But that's just because we are still in the basic class. I don't want to go into complex things in this class. All right, let's record another macro. So again, I click on record. I can call it task 2. This workbook, okay. Now it's recording, okay? If you remember to insert a pivot table, you go to insert, you click on the range, and now it selects the range for you that it's going to use for the pivot table. You can see the squiggly line around the broken line around the data. And then I want to put it in the existing sheet. I don't want to go to another sheet. And I want to put it here on H1 and I click on OK. Then I want to add the employees to the rows and I want to see the hours logged in the values. Okay. And that's my pivot table. So I'll stop it now. And now I have another macro. Okay. And let's see that macro in the developer tab, macros. And now you have task 2 macro here. So as I said, Florence, if you had to make this kind of report for your boss on a daily basis, and you didn't want to, maybe the data you received was just this raw table, and this pivot table was not there, and you didn't want to, do all the steps we did just now. And by the way, these are very basic examples, huh? Macros can be used to do very, very complex things, right? With so many, many, many actions. So it would really save you a lot of time if you use macros. And I use macros all the time in my day-to-day work because I have many, many use cases for macros. Okay. So let's delete this and play our macro to see it in action. I will go again to macros, select task 2 and run it. And look at that. Like magic, we have a pivot table and we didn't have to click, 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 drag, and so on. Excel or the macro has just helped us to do that very fast. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If I have okay, let me assume this is my master data,
Mhm.
and I have a sheet, a separate sheet that I want to connect to
Yes.
this master data to update it using macros.
Yes.
How can we do that?
It depends on what you're trying to do. Let's say, okay, I'll remove this. Let's say you had another sheet of, say, Um, okay, you know what? Before we do that, let me finish all of the tasks so that at least you'll cover all the concepts for macros, and then I'll show you an example that can help you update from a different location into the current location. Okay, let's look at this task 3 for now. Well, this one says record a macro that performs an advanced filter. Okay. If you remember when we did advanced filters, I said you have to have a criteria range. So let's make a quick criteria range up here. Let's say we wanted to filter by install software, right? And I wanted, let me just add a few more here. So advanced filters, we went to data, advanced filter. I'm going to do it manually first before I record the macro, and make sure that the list is correct. Okay, we want it to be copied to another location. Our criteria range is this one, and we want it to copy to here. And if I click on OK, then you have a filter that is for tasks install software, as you can see here. Okay. And you could also see that I had to do some manual adjustments to the width. So all of these we could do with macros. So you see, for me to make advanced filters, I had to, come here and set that and set that and set that and do all of that. It takes a number of clicks. It's quite fast because these are not complex operations, but it takes a number of clicks, and macros can help you speed up that as well. Let's use macros to do it now. I'll start recording. I'll call this task 3. Okay. And the idea was to do an advanced filter that is based on that range that will copy to another location, and the criteria range is that. And we want to copy to H. Okay, good. And I click on OK. It does it, and I stop recording. Now I have my macro. I go to developer, macros, and I have now task 3. Good. So now let's remove that, and let's change the task here to market research, and let's play that macro. I go again to macros, task 3, run. And you can see how it's now helping me real quickly to make my filtration based on whatever I put here. One other concept for macros is because, each time I wanted to run the macro, I was going here to macros and I was searching for my macro and I was clicking on run. Now, this is how, well, you would do it if you didn't have buttons on the screen. Now, let's take it one step further and put a button on the screen that will do pretty much run the macro that we have created. And for that, we'll need to collect some controls here. Under control, you have a number of controls that can be utilized, okay? And here we have a button. So I can just click on that and draw a button on my screen. And now I have a button. And you can see here that it's asking me to assign a macro to this button. Let's assign task 3 so that every time that this button gets clicked, task 3 macro will run. So I click on OK, and now I have my button. I can change the text of the button to run filter, for example. Okay. And just click away. And now you have an active button on the screen. And if you click that, I don't know if you saw that, it happened very fast, but let's change the task that we are filtering on. Let me just read this one here and say, let's filter on. So you can keep this here as some kind of helper advanced filter, field. And every time you just do that, you just click on run filter, and you can see it has just done my filtration based on staff training. Let's change to budget review, put that there, and run. And look at that. So you kind of have a small application within Excel now that just helps you to do your filters. Isn't that cool?
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Very good. So yeah, so again, as I said, it's you can, and it's not only buttons. You can bring even some kind of object. Let's say I don't know. Let's say a triangle. You can draw a triangle here, and you can also assign macros by right clicking and going to assign macro. Okay, and then you can see all the macros, and you can assign any of the macros. I can maybe just use task 3 again and say, okay, What it means is this will also do the same thing that this button is doing. If I change that to market research, let's see, and I click the triangle, it does it, the same thing. So objects, shapes, buttons can be assigned macros, and they will just pretty much run what you have recorded, basically. If I went again to Visual Basic, now you see I have just make it a bit bigger. You see I have task 3 here. It's quite basic. It just sets the range, does the auto filter on this on the criteria range, and then it copies to a new location, H4 to M4, and it says no, we don't want unique values. We want every value, in fact. Okay, and this was the one that made the pivot table. It's quite big, and that was task 1. So that's task 2. And these are, blocked into what they call subroutines in VBA. Okay, so this is the first subroutine. This is the second subroutine, which is the second macro, and this is the third subroutine, which is the third macro. And they're all housed in this file called the module. But again, this is a bit more advanced stuff. It's VBA. I'll probably have a class in the future to teach VBA for those, for maybe a bit more advanced Excel users. And if you'll be interested, I'll let you know when I'm going to do that. All right. Any other question on this one? It's pretty much the same, huh? Record the macro, connect it to a button and run it. I'll leave the fourth one as your, maybe I'll just do it. Let's delete this. I was gonna say homework, but the class ends today, so no need for homework. I could also give a homework for you to practice, but there won't be any chance to review it, at least not in the class. All right. So let's record a macro that inserts a new column and applies a formula. And the steps, it's saying convert. So the things we're going to do here is we're going to convert this data to an official table. Remember, we did that yesterday. We will insert a new column called salary, and we will do a formula so update the fields with a formula based on $15 per worked hour. To do that, first, let's just go straight and start recording the macro. Click that, call it task 4. Okay. Now it's showing the stop button, so the macro is recording. Let's convert our range to a table. Remember, I told you can go to insert and click table, or you can just be inside of the table and type Control T on your keyboard, and Excel automatically highlights the area that it will make a table. And you can go ahead and click on, of course, make sure that you select that it has headers. You click on OK, and now it's a table. So the first step is done. The second step is to insert a salary column. So we come here, and as I was told in the last class, you can just type here, and the table width has adjusted to add one additional column to the table. And that's the second item here. And the third one says update the fields with a formula based on 15 hours per worked hour. Okay. So that basically is just to say that the salary is the hours logged times 15. Okay. Enter. And we can convert this to I think we used the dollar currency yesterday. Currency. I changed this one to US dollar, like that. 2 decimals, that's fine. Okay, right? And that's it, basically. Okay, now I'll stop recording. And now we have all of that I did just now locked into a macro called task 4. Let's bring a button, insert button, draw the button on the screen, assign task 4 to that button, click on OK, rename it. I can call it generate report or generate salary, whatever, right? So this could be a typical task that you do, regularly, okay? If you were just, I deleted that and I'm going to convert this back to a normal table, a normal data, normal range, okay? Now it's back to being a normal range. I will remove the format, okay? I'll just fix this date because it's kind of converted it back to number form, general format. Yeah, and now it's back to being a date. Okay, so this is back to how we started. Let's see if by clicking on generate salary, we will indeed convert this entire thing to a table. We will add one more column for salary and we'll put the formula that we did just now. Let's see. Look at that. And it's even giving us the US dollar format automatically. You can imagine how much time you can save with macros if you just knew how to record the right macros and use them correctly. Any questions?
For me, it's not like a question. It's still what I talked about earlier.
Mm.
For
Yeah.
instance, we have the
Mhm.
same information, like with
Yes.
the same column information, but we are supposed to be imputing but different employee names, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a file we get it from, like a different sheet we get it from, where
Yes.
we already have our macros. So in that file, definitely it's just the salary and the hours logged that may likely be different from what we have here. How
Mm-hmm.
do we how do we update that file to this macro, because they have the same employee department, the same column
Mm-hmm.
information, but different for the employees who would have different names for different months, I guess. How do we bring those information into this file, into
Right.
our macros? Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I will address that question. You asked that before, I'll address it, but I wanted to first cover the basics for those that are just learning macros for the first time.
I have not learned it
Okay.
before.
No, 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 I will address it. Don't worry. I want to know if there is any question on this because to do your problem, I will have to do a number of things, okay? And I don't want to deviate from the basics until everybody is comfortable with the basics, okay? But do you guys have any other questions on the things that I have asked? So as I've explained so far. If you don't, then I will start solving the problem
No.
that Florence has. Okay.
No question.
All right. Okay. Let's try to address that issue that Florence is asking. I will let's make another Excel sheet. So if I understand well, you have pretty much the same type of data. I will copy everything here. Copy. And on the other file, you have this. Okay. So you want to be able to, let me just put it on the left side and this one on the right side. Good. So let's say this is your master file, okay? And I'll just try to remove, I think I have some duplicates here. I'll try to remove duplicates on employee name. Well, on all, in fact. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was only one duplicate. All right. And I will also duplicate from this side. Okay, good. Now let's say you have these fields empty. Okay, I'll just delete them. Okay, and you have the data in this sheet. And this is probably the sheet that you receive, say, on a monthly basis of how the people have done their work. Okay. Maybe just to simplify it a little bit, I'll remove. Can you just give me an idea, Florence, how your data goes? Is it a lookup of every activity, every name, department, task to get the hours, or is it a lookup only by name? I can't hear you.
Okay, we can use look up by name. Look up by name is fine.
Okay. So in that case, okay, in fact, I think I can also just make it a little bit simpler by removing the additional columns because we have them here anyway, and this is kind of the details file. And you want to kind of make a summarized report here, okay? So I'll also remove the duplicates on the employee name. Okay, good. So in fact, what I want to see here is only the hours worked, which will be a sum. And this is actually a good example for us to recap a little bit about aggregations, about sum and formulas. And then here we want to sum the we want to make the salaries, in fact. Hours logged. In this case, what I want to do is to get the sum of all of the hours done by Alice on this sheet, which is the sheet that I receive from time to time from, I don't know, HR or whoever. And then I want to sum all those hours here. To do that, I will use a SUMIF formula. This one you guys can, I know we didn't cover it in this course, but it's just used to sum the values in another range based on a criteria. And in this case, our criteria is Alice, okay? So it's asking us, what do you want to sum, okay? In this case, I want to sum I want to sum based on employee names. And what's the criteria? And you can see here that Excel has kind of reference book two, which is a different sheet, and column A. And the employee name is Alice, which is the criteria for this SUMIF function. And it's asking me now on which range do I want to sum, the sum range. And the sum range in this case is the hours logged. Okay. And I close my bracket. So let me just recap this formula. Sum if it's summing on book two, which is this book right here, sheet one, which is this sheet, and column A. That means I'm looking at employees. And I want to make my criteria to be this particular employee, Alice. And I want to sum, the range I want to sum is F. So I want to sum the hours logged. If I press enter, it does that for all of the employees. It has summed the hours worked for all the employees. Okay. And here I want to um, well, pretty much just do that times 15, which is the hourly rate. And now I know how much everybody earns. Okay. So this is a kind of data that you will receive, say, on a monthly basis from HR. It will just be in this sheet like this. And every month you have to kind of generate a salary overview report for your boss. Okay. I can also just add a sum to this one. Total row that. So you can see that it will be $3,000 for everybody in the month. Okay. 3,400. This you can do and automate such kind of data with macros, if you kind of receive this kind of data on a I don't know, weekly, monthly basis, whatever, all of these steps I did just now, you can do them with macros. And yeah, not to make it too complicated, I'm going to try to save some of these. Well, let's 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 do it with macros, okay? I've done it now manually, and you have your report. Let's do it with macros. Let's say, for example, you receive this sheet, and you want to have a macro that will generate this report for you automatically. To do that, I'll just remove the total again and just delete this. And let's leave this table as is. Developer, record the macro. I'll call this one generate report. Okay. And okay, and now I'm starting to record, and I will do what I did just now again. Sum if the range is this one, criteria is criteria, and we are summing the hours logged. Now we have that, and the salary will be this times 15. So just really short steps. And then I will add the total row, and I'll stop recording. Okay. And maybe, yeah, I shouldn't have stopped recording, because when I want to send this data to my boss, I don't want to have these formulas sitting around. Okay. Um, okay. Um, yeah, let's do it again. And okay, you know what? Yeah, it's okay. I'll do it from the VBA side, just to show you a little bit of how to do VBA. So basically, to run that again, I'll just bring a button here that um, I called it generate report. Okay. And I will name the button generate report. Okay, good. So every time I click that, it just does. So even if I emptied the table, remove the total, just remove it from here. If I click that, I have my report super fast. Okay. I'll show you how that looks in VBA. Should be the last one here. It's this one here. Generate report. Let's just push it down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. And basically what it's doing is it's selecting B5, then it's applying a formula, which is that sum if formula I just did, okay? And you can see here that it's doing it on book 2. And this could have been any other book. It could have been whatever. And now if you know a little bit about VBA, so even if the Excel sheet that was sent to you was called something else other than book 2, then you just put the name of the sheet here and the correct reference, just to be sure that it works. And then it also applies the other formula on the salary column, which is just a multiplication of the hours by the daily rate, the hourly rate, and then it shows the total of the table. So it's just a few steps that we have done, okay? One other thing that you can do is to remove the formulas. Okay, so if you wanted to send this to your boss, maybe you want to remove the formulas, because in fact, if you send it like this, it will maintain the link to an external file. And if you have emailed it to your boss and the link is not established, the external file, the report will be broken. Okay, so what you can do, this one is a bonus tip. you can replace the values of the table with the values of the table. So now I'm just going to come here to the VBA and just modify it a little bit. And I can just say range. And in this case, I'm going to reference the table name itself. Oops, sorry. And my table name is table 8, like that. I can say dot value equal to table 8 dot value. So table 8 dot value equal to table 8 dot value. What this does is it will just remove the formulas from it. Let's see if it works. So I'll click the generate report. It works, but now you see I don't have formulas anymore in my data. So this could be a really good use case for you if you wanted to, quickly generate a report based on an external file, as Florence had requested, and generate the report, and you don't even have the formulas in the report. This could be a very good use case for such kind of examples. I don't know if you are happy now, Florence, with this example.
Yes, thank you.
All right, very good. So again, I know I was actually avoiding to show it because there is a number of concepts in it that you need to understand, but I believe if you watch this video a couple of times, it will make sense and you can actually apply it in your work. Okay, so that's macros. Try it out. Do as many macro examples as possible until you get a full hang of how it works. And I'm pretty sure that you'll do good with macros. All right. So I've just explained to you how to use macros, how to record, how to change a macro in the VBA editor, okay, and how to assign macros to buttons. Great. Now we move to another topic, protecting workbooks and worksheets. Okay, I think I have yeah, great. So now you have a report like this, right? And you want people to fill in data into this sheet, okay? But you don't want them to fill in data anywhere else, okay? Because maybe you have connected the file to something else and you want the data to only be in this, the orange area. Okay, you can actually protect the workbook in such a way that the users are only allowed to enter data where you want them to enter data. You can in fact lock the workbook so that they cannot modify it at all. Maybe you just want them to just read the file. You can also just lock it. For that, you will have to go to the review tab on the ribbon, and under the protect group, you will see the protect and unprotect uh, workbook commands. Okay, so let's try and but anyway, let me show you. Every cell in Excel already by default. Let's right click. Ah, yeah, looks like this one is protected. Oh, sorry. I have to unprotect it first. There we go. Good. So protect sheet, protect book. That's because I had it protected before. So if I right click now and go to format, let's do these ones here. If I go under the protection tab, you can see this locked field is checked, right? That's because every cell by default is checked. It should in fact be locked, but it doesn't take any effect. You can still, even though it's locked, type into it, right? Let me show you again. If I say on H4, I went to format cell. Under protection, you can see it's locked, but I can type on it. So how is that possible that it's locked and still you can type? It's because by default, the cells property is locked, but it doesn't take any effect until, in fact, you have locked the sheet from here. You have protected the sheet from here. So if I go back there now, and let's read this, you see locking cells or hiding formulas has no effect until you protect the workbook, okay? The worksheet. So let's do that now and see what's going to happen. Now, if I protect it, it's asking me for a password. Let's say 123, for example. And then you can see it says protect sheet and content of locked cells. And then there's a number of other things here that it's saying that anyway, after you have locked it, what are the things you want to allow the user of this file to do? Things like, can the user still select a locked cell? Can they unlock the cell, right? Select, unlock, well, select locked and unlocked cells, and also do some of all these formatting, format the cells, format the columns, rows, insert rows, and things like that. Those ones you can see they are not checked. So it means that all of these things down here, not checked, the users are not allowed to do them. That means once I protect the sheet, I cannot insert a new row. I cannot format the cells. I can only just select them, in fact, select both the locked and unlocked ones, but I can't do anything else. I can do auto filter, I can do a pivot table, and so on, right? Let's see. So I put 123 there as my password, and then it asks me to re-enter the password to be sure. And then I say 123 again. Okay. And now the book is locked. And now if I try to type, you can see it gives me this error. The cell or chart you're trying to change is on a protected sheet. To make a change on protect the sheet, you might be requested to enter a password, okay? And to unprotect the sheet, you can come here and click unprotect, or you can right click here under the sheet name and click on unprotect, okay? And my password was 123, and I click OK. And now it's unprotected, and again, I'm allowed to type, okay? So that's how you can protect the sheet and, force people to well, not edit anything on your sheet. But if you in fact wanted people to only edit this area, for example, the orange area, then you need to remove the lock on them by going right clicking and going to format cells. And you can see here I have them locked. I will have to unlock them. Okay. But again, it doesn't take any effect until I've protected the sheet. So if I did that, I type here, I can still type everywhere, even though only these orange cells are unlocked. But now if I protect the sheet, I use the same password. Now I'm allowed to type here, okay? But I'm not allowed to type here. I get an error. You see that? I can't type anywhere else in the sheet, but in the orange area. Okay? So that's how you can protect your sheet and force people to do things only where you want them to do it. Any questions?
All clear.
All clear. Very good. All right. So that's sheet protection. Try it out, and yeah, for me it took a while to understand. Let me unprotect it. Why it said that the cell was locked, but still I was able to type into it. It's just because I needed to protect the sheet first to see it in action. Okay. The other thing you can do is to protect the entire workbook itself by clicking on Protect Workbook, okay? And here you can also just give it a password, 123, okay? Re-enter the password, 123, okay? And now this is a protected workbook. So if I close the workbook, let's save it. I'll just close the VBA editor, close this one. And we need to save. I will try to open it again. Enable. looks like my protection didn't work. Let me see. Mm, Okay, just I'll check why this one did not work after the lunch break. Looks like I needed to activate another setting. Okay, I propose that we take a short break and then we'll come back and just try to wrap up. I have just one more concept and then it will be the end of the course, right? Can we do that?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So see you in let's come back at 5:30, 5:15, sorry.
5:15. Okay.
All right. And 4:15. Is
Thanks.
there anyone in Nigeria here?
I don't think so.
No one. Okay.
No, I
All
mean,
right. Okay. Okay. See you guys at 5:15.
I'll see you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Recording. All right. So protection. I mixed up something here a little bit just before we went on the break, because in fact this protect workbook only just protects the structure of the workbook, right? This one
Um,
will.
your screen, please.
I'm not sharing.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. All right. Now, how about now?
Yes, you are.
All right. So this one, in fact, just protects the structure of the book, okay? Not necessarily it doesn't encrypt the book such that when you want to open the book, you would have to require a password, okay? So if I put that there, for example, well, before I do that, just notice if I right click, I can move, I can delete, I can, change the text, I can change the colors and things like that. But when I do a protection of the workbook, one, two, three, okay, two, three, okay. Now all those things have been grayed out. I can't delete it anymore. I can't move it. I can't copy it. I can just view it basically, and that's it. Okay. So that's what this protect workbook does. But then let me unprotect it and everything is back. Okay. But then if I wanted to encrypt the entire workbook to prevent it from being opened at all without a password, there you would need to go into File Info and you'll see again protect workbook here. That's why I mixed it up a little bit. And then here you can see the encrypt with password button. You can click on that, select a password, 123, okay, re-enter, 123, okay. And now it says a password is required to open this workbook, okay. I save it. Now I close it and let's try to open it. And now you can see it says that the file is protected and it's asking me for a password. So I can't even open it without a password now. Okay. And now I'm back. I'll just go back to info, click on that, remove the password, just delete it, click on OK, and now it doesn't have that anymore. Go back, save, and now it's not protected anymore. Okay. So use the review tab to protect your sheet. Remember, cells are already locked by default, and you can then click on protect sheets to actually get them to actually be locked. And you can protect the workbook structure to prevent people from adding or deleting worksheets. And you can encrypt the entire workbook so that a password will be required whenever you want to open the workbook. Any other questions on protection of our documents? All clear. Very good. Mm, see. So the final thing we'll talk about, and by the way, I already gave an introduction to Power Query a few lessons ago when we prepared a small data set and we have connected it using using if I remember, it was the world population data, and we brought it in using Power Query, and we were able to refresh the data, connect it and things like that. Let's just do a quick recap of that, and then I'll just give you a very tiny introduction to Power BI, and that will be the end of the course. Okay, let's do that. I'll think I can use this same famous data set here. I'll create another Excel file. I'll just paste it here, save it, browse, training, put it in the same location. Looks like I had one data there before. I'll just replace that one. Yes. All right. Close. And let's get data. Remember, I told you to connect data, you have to go to data, get data from. In this case, it's from another Excel workbook. Remember how we went to the web the last time, right? So now we are going from Excel and I click on data to bring this file in. And then it's trying to make a connection to that sheet. And it's telling me that there is only one sheet in that document. I click on it, and then it gives me a preview of the data in that document. There are two things I can do. I can either load it or I can do a transform data. And the purpose of today's class is not just to load it directly, which is what we did last time, but to see what we can do when we do a transformation of the data. Let's see. Now, when I click on that, it will load up this window that's called the Power Query Editor. Okay. Now, what this is it helps us to kind of clean our data as much as possible before we bring it into Excel. Okay. There are a number of things you can do with your columns here. And by the way, this is only going to be a very bare introduction because Power Query is quite a robust topic, right? But basically, the data is here. The data is not yet brought into our file, but we can already do some kind of cleansing of the data from here. For example, you can see here that column, the employee column, for example, has this ABC on the left side of it, which is essentially the data format in that column. So we can decide to say, well, this one is ABC, meaning it's a text. So we agree. But it could be that from the source of the data, it probably was something else. And from here, we can force it to be text to be sure that whenever this data loads, this field loads up as text. Okay. And this one also is text, and this is text, which is good. This is also text, so yeah, it's fine. And then due date is, as you can see, it's a date. You can see the shape of the icon is that of a date. So it's a date, so that's fine. It's a date format. And this one looks a little bit different, 1.2, meaning it's a decimal number, right? But this could also be, well, I think a decimal number is fine for this one. I'll go back to the data source and I'll add another field for salary just so that we can see how that will look. So yeah, so here a number of things can be done. We can decide to say, okay, we want to only filter in the high priority activities. And here I can, already use this filter button here to remove anything that's low and medium to make sure that only the high priority tasks are loaded in. So now it's all high. And you can see also on the right-hand side that there are a few applied steps that have been, automatically updated here. First was to connect to the source, then it did some navigation, and then it promoted headers. But the one I did just now was to apply a filter, right? So all of these types, well, up to the change type, I did a change type here when I said that employee was text and department was text and all of those were text, right? And this one was a number and this is a date, right? So it kind of records every step that you do to the data up to the last one, okay? And the last one here was the filter. You can see if I go to change step, it's not filtered. And when I click on filtered row, now it's filtered, right? And I can continue to add stuff. Maybe I don't want to see the task. I can just right click and remove it, in fact, right? So it's still in the original data. This is only the data that will be loaded into our sheet, okay? And then you can also see here that one step has been applied as well, right? And so on, right? For now, I'll stop here and I'll just go ahead and load it. You can load it from here, right? By just clicking on this close and load. So let's do that and let's see. So it has created a new sheet for us and it has brought in the data that based on what we have set up in the Power Query editor window. It's still the same data coming from that file, but you can see that it's been filtered. So we are only seeing what we are interested in. And this could be important if you had maybe, I don't know, you were looking at sales report and you only wanted to see 2025 sales report, for example. You could have gone into the Power Query editor and set a filter to only show you the dates that you are interested in. As a matter of fact, let's do an example like that. If I go to edit, and by the way, to go back to the Power Query editor, I just use that connection I have here to sheet one. I right click on it and I clicked on edit and it brings back that Power Query editor screen for me. And I wanted to filter by date, right? So I could do that, or I could come here and say dates, my dates are 29, 18. Let's look at only things that are from the 20th, for example, 20th of May and in the future. So it's after, right? So after. So then it brings me this the filter row screen, and it's asking me that my date is after, let's say, that was May, right? May the 20th. Okay. If I click OK, and now it filters again. So you can see another filtered row has been another filtered row step has been added to the steps that I've applied to this query, and I can go ahead and also load it, and it will just refresh, and you see the data has decreased. So you can continue to, apply more and more steps and continue to modify the source data, modify the source data via the query to only display the data that you really want to display on the screen. Okay. If I go back to my just to bring back the data, you can see that the original data is still very much intact, right? And we have only just brought a subset of it here. Okay. And this is also useful. You can decide to, based on this data, make a chart, make a pivot chart, just basically whatever you want to do. Let's say we make a pivot chart out of this data, and let's keep it in the existing sheet here. Okay. And let's bring employee names and the hours logged. Okay. So now it's a combination. Now I'm just showing you a combination of all the things that we have done before. how we have been able to connect to an external source of data and displayed it here. And now we have a pivot table with a pivot chart for visualization. So easily I can see that George seems to have worked the most hours. I can also add data labels. 17.8 hours for George, right? So that's how you work with the Power Query editor. You can display it from this data tab and just click on queries and you'll see all the connected data on this side. I explained this in the previous lecture. Right click on edit. You go back to the Power Query editor and here you can apply more steps. Now, don't worry if you don't understand all these things. It's just a basic introduction to show you what is possible. There is a full course on managing queries, okay, on Power Query. So don't worry about that for now. Just know the possibilities, and especially if you wanted to make very simple reports like this, then you can just connect your data to the original source and do some filters on it, and then make a pivot report out of it with a dashboard. Simple as that. Questions? Any questions? Oh, good. Okay. And yeah. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was, just a very brief introduction to Power BI, just as we have done for Power Query. And I'll just try to do the same thing I did here in Power BI. Let's see. So Power BI it's a data visualization tool. That's all it is. You see, most of what we do in here with Excel, we can also do with Power BI, except that Power BI gives us more tools for visualization. Okay, Power BI, you can think of Power BI as a Excel visualization on steroids because it makes visualization super easy and super cool. And also it helps you to be able to distribute your reports easily and even across the web and keep them connected to the source data and live all the time. Let's see what I mean. So for that, I've installed a tool called, Power BI Desktop. You can download it from the Microsoft Store. It's free. The desktop version of Power BI is free, but the web version that one is called Power BI Service. It's a paid one. So yes, I can create reports, but I'm not able to publish them online if I don't have a paid license. Okay. So this is what it looks like, the Power BI interface when you want to, create a new, once you just launch it, okay? So I'll just create a blank report for now, okay? And I'm brought to this window where it's asking me to add some data. So as I said before, Power BI is just used for data visualization. So you cannot use Power BI without data. You have to connect to data before you can use all the, power of Power BI. And yeah, it's just pretty much a simple screen here. You can connect to the data source. You can do some modification on the data model. You can see all the different types of charts that you can bring. You can see pretty much this similar to the things that we had seen in Excel, histograms, bar charts, pie charts, line charts, and so on, right? It's just kind of like Excel, but it just looks a little bit different. If we go, you can see this kind of looks familiar, to the same get data tab that we saw earlier on in Excel. I'll just bring it up. You can see get data, and here we could select from Excel, from database, from multiple sources. You can also see in Power BI that you can get data from Excel, from multiple sources as well, from the web, right? let's get from Excel, just as we did just now with Excel. And my file was located in, I think it was, yeah, inside here, and I called it data, this one. Okay, and just as it did with Excel, it's trying to connect to the data source. And you can see this is pretty similar to what we saw in Excel. You select it, you see a preview, and you remember in Excel, we could either just load it directly or transform the data. Let's go ahead and do a transformation just to see. And you can see it has opened the Power Query editor just as it did in Excel. And you see the screen looks almost identical to what we saw in Excel. And you can see also the steps applied just as we saw in Excel. Okay. And we can also do the same thing we did by, changing the types to be sure that number was number, date, text was text, date was date, and so on. And it looks pretty good here. This is a date, this is a number, and this is text. So that's good. You can apply filters as we have done. We wanted to see only the high priority as we did in Excel. And now it says here that there is one applied filter. And you can, I think I'll just leave it like this so we can have some data to work with in Power BI. Or I'll just remove it so we can see more. I'll remove this filter, right? And then I'll just load it just as we did. It's just bringing data into Power BI is the same way you do in Excel. But then the data shows up under this, you have some small windows here that shows you the different tools that you can use. And there is this extra one called data here, right? So it looks a little bit different than it does in Excel. I'll expand it a little bit. And then you can see when you expand that sheet, you can see the different columns of the data. I'll just bring the data here. You can see it's employees here, right? And department and tasks and priority, due date, hours logged. That's all you have here. Okay. These icons you see here just tell you that this one is a date and this one is kind of a number, some aggregated number, right? So now how can we bring in the visualization? This type of visualization that we saw here, where we kind of had this, pivot table that, and by the way, you noticed in Power BI that the table did not come automatically. It's because what you actually bring automatically is the data model, okay? And now we want to be able to use that data model to put things into the canvas. And this here is the canvas. So let's start with the table. I'll bring, well, that table by just clicking on table, the table icon. You can click on it and it just pops up in your canvas, okay? You can resize it. Now there are no fields in it because you have to add fields on it to have it display. So what do I want to see? Here you can see at the bottom here, you can see the columns, okay? So I can go ahead and add, say, employee, and you can see it's loading, and now it's kind of brought employees here and departments. I'll just stack it there. Now I'm starting to stack the different columns here. Let's bring task. Let's bring priority, then due date. And this one kind of expands the date into the year, the month, the quarter, and I don't want it to look like that. For that, you can click on this little arrow here and just make sure that it's the due date itself that's showing. Now, it's still showing in a way I don't like, but I can go ahead and format that column by clicking on it. And up here, you can see the formatting of it, just kind of like what we do in Excel, just looks a little bit different. And I can use this short date format. And now you see it's back to something pretty close to what we used, but there's many, many other formats. I like this one with double digit day and month. Yeah, so this looks better. And I will also bring the hours. So now I have kind of the same table I had in Excel. Uh, Kind of this same thing I have here. I have it now as well in Power BI. I'll just resize it a little bit and keep it here. Now I want a chart basically. Let's see column chart. And basically, if you just click on that, and the same way, drag and drop the different things you want to see. On our chart here in Excel, we have just the names and the hours. Okay. So we bring the names into the x-axis and the hours logged into the y-axis. Yeah, Power BI does this thing where it just helps you to sort, from the biggest because it's a visualization tool, right? You can achieve the same kind of sorting in Excel by sorting your data. Here I have a pivot table that gives me this chart, and I can sort it from data sort biggest to smallest. And you see, it kind of looks like the same chart we have in Power BI, it just looks more beautiful in Power BI. Okay, so you can resize it, you can move it around, you can make more charts, you can make horizontal charts, you can make pie charts, and so on. And, if you remember in Excel, we had used slicers as well. Let's bring a slicer here. Insert slicer. Let's say we want a slicer by department. We say, okay, now we have a slicer in Excel. So you can actually slice and dice your data as you wish. Guess what? You can do the same thing in Power BI. I'll come here and I'll look for the slicer icon. It's this one. Oops, not like that. Actually, in Power BI, if you still have something selected and you click on any of the other UI elements, any of the other visual elements, it will change what you are working on. So you have to click away, like I've just done. And then I will bring the slicer. Now it's a standalone slicer. Oops. And I wanted a slicer on it was department, right? Yeah, department. So I will just add department to the field. And there you have it. Yeah, it looks a little bit different. But then in Power BI, you can modify your visual. You can modify your visual. You can change the colors in this format your visual section. You can, change the x-axis, change the y-axis, change the colors, change the borders, the name, the title. So many things you can do. Okay. I can, if I wanted to change, for example, the type of slicer, I can actually do it from here to say I don't want it to be a vertical list. I want it to be tiled. You can see now it kind of looks more like what you saw in Excel. Or I want it to be a drop menu. Now it's kind of a drop menu. The same slicer and does exactly the same thing. Okay. Let's leave the let's leave this one. Or yeah, let's leave this one. This one's cool. Right? And then you can just select it by, clicking, and you can see how all of the UI elements are responding to my click, right? HR, now I have only department HR and the chart modifies to HR and so on and so forth. You can do multiple selection by holding on control and clicking on. So now I have three selected and yeah. So it's just an introduction to show you what's possible with Power BI. This is just barely scratching the surface, okay? Just to, whet your appetite a little bit about Power BI. But I use Power BI every day at work, to visualize different aspects of our operations to see how things are going and to get people to react to fix things, to bring them back on track. Visualizations tremendously help us to optimize the effectiveness of our operations. And Power BI, no doubt, for me is the number one tool to ensure such kind of to be able to make such kind of informed decisions. And Yeah, if you wanted to publish it, then you would have to click this publish, but you have to have a Power BI service license in order to be able to publish this to the internet. And then you can even make an app out of it and distribute the app with people via their emails, and they'll be able to see your publications. I'll just save that inside our training, I'll call it time data. And Power BI files have this .pbix extension. Okay, save that, and now I have it there. Close it, and next time if I want to work on it again, I can just go there, and that's the file right there. Open it, and Power BI launches, and I will have my data, which, as I said, is already connected to this file here, this data.xlsx. And every time the data changes, all I need to do is to just refresh from here, right? Click refresh, just as you did with Excel as well, where you could just right click and click on refresh. Okay. So it's the same thing as I said, but just think of Power BI as Excel with some more advanced UX. Okay. That's it. Any questions? I know
I
you
have
have a
a
lot of
question.
questions. Yes, please.
Yeah, I think it's mainly, could you maybe explain a little bit on the three systems? We have Excel that does the calculations, then we
Mhm,
have Power BI that does the visual, but
mhm.
then I struggle to understand the role of Power Query.
Okay.
Yeah.
Power Query just helps us to determine what comes into the visual. So this
Okay.
here is the canvas, okay? At the moment,
Mm,
if I go to edit the query, it'll pop up the Power Query window. And what we do here is to determine what we bring in and how we bring it in. So it's kind of used for just cleaning up our data before we bring it into so let's do a practical example. Let's say here I have I have duplicates, for example, right? What I'm going to do is I will highlight all of the data, and I will just duplicate them, right? So now I have 103 rows, which is quite bad because it means my data is not clean, okay? I will come here and go to edit. And now you see I will refresh. You can also refresh from here. I have those 100 plus rows of data, okay? You can you can do a number of things, okay? You can decide to say you don't want duplicate employees, for example, right? You can come here and in fact, I think you can also just do it from here. Duplicate columns. So remove. Under remove, you can remove duplicate columns from here, right? Remove duplicates. If there were errors in the file, right, you could remove the errors from here, right? If there's a lot of things you can do, in fact, right? For me to be able to remove the duplicates, let's use some kind of ID in the original data. So I'll just remove duplicate IDs because if I remove the duplicate names, it will remove some important data. Let's go back to our data file and what I'll do, it was here, right? Now I'll delete this. I'll add an ID field, ID. So one, like that. And then I'll just fill. So 1 to 51, right? So this, let's say all of this data is duplicated like this, okay? By mistake. The guy sent me the file. He didn't know he had pasted it twice. And now I kind of have duplicate data. Oops, sorry. What's that? Yes. So I save this. If I refresh this Excel, you'll see now I have duplicate data here, which is not good. Let's also do it in Power BI. I refresh here. Now I have that ID field that I've added, and I have, again, 1 to 53 here, right? If I want to remove that, I can come here, click on the column, right click, and click on Remove Duplicates, okay? And you can see a step here has been applied to remove the duplicates. And now I don't have anything beyond 51 anymore. And I can still close and load my data, and my data is not destroyed. I don't have duplicate stuff. So even if there are errors in the source data, if those errors are captured and I have treated them in my query, I can prevent those errors from coming into my report. Okay, so that's just one thing, removing duplicates. We can do a whole lot of other things. We can add new columns. We can say, for example, employee initial. I can come here and say I want to add a column, right? I can say add a column from examples. Now this is starting to be a little bit deep, Power Query. But let's say this one also is quite nice because it kind of looks like Flash fill, where Power Query kind of sees the pattern of what you're doing and gives you some suggestions. So let's say this column, I'll call it, say, initials, right? So I want the initials of the individual, of the employees. So if I just maybe selected employee and typed A, right? It kind of understands, and then it thinks I'm trying to do Bob here, and then I change this to B. And now you see it's kind of just giving me a flash fill of all of the initials of the employees. And this is an additional column that was not in the original data. If I click on OK now you see I have one more column that I can use. And this was not in the original data. It's just a column. It's what we call, an additional column. In this case, it's just, and there could also be other types of columns, right? Conditional columns and so on, right? But this one is just based on the initials, and I have it now because I have Power Query, and I can, go home and load this into my data, and you'll see here that I now have an initials field, and I can also just I can use it already in my visuals. If I clicked on that and clicked on initials, you see. So the people that their names start with J, I can filter, and I see Jane here. I can see I can see H. But as I said, this was not originally in my data. It was something that Power Query has helped me to create and use in my visual. Does that answer your question, Martha?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. So, well, there is a whole lot to learn about Power Query. It took me some time to learn it, and but it's not difficult, okay? You just need to, spend some time to understand the mechanics of it and have some real world examples where you can implement it. Cool. So we have done quite a lot in this course. It's a big course, and I've actually had fun making the course. I want to thank all of you for your participation. We had a bigger class when we started. Now it's not so many people. I don't know if it's because it became more and more advanced, but I want to say thank you for your participation so far, and I hope you have learned something valuable for yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much too. And I think the people maybe stopped attending because of the YouTube, like you're uploading them there now.
Yes, I
Yeah,
am. Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, but thank you
Yes.
so much. And, yeah, I've learned a lot. Yeah, and it's good that there's recordings. I can always go back and then just
Re-
go through, yeah,
refresh. Hmm.
refresh. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Great.
So what's next? The introduction, the introduction.
Yes. No, I'm going to be, as I said, I've actually had fun doing this, to be honest. For me, it was also quite a good refresher. And the goal is to, be making courses like this. I'll probably do a Power BI, a full Power BI master class, just like this one we have done with Excel, where we'll
Yeah.
just maybe it won't just be Power BI, it'll probably be a full data analysis course where we will do data analysis. We'll learn a lot about Power Query and about Power BI and making all these beautiful dashboards. I think that will be the next thing. It will come up pretty soon. I'm going to have to work on it to build the content. And yeah, it's coming. And of course, I have a number of other tools that I'll be teaching, well, going from, office productivity tools like, Excel, maybe even VBA, Power BI. I will probably have classes where for people interested in, Python and programming and things like that. And in the future, we'll also do some things around AI and how we can use AI in our day-to-day work. So there's a lot coming up. Let's just say this was only scratching the surface.
Mm. Looking forward to that. I'm definitely interested.
Sure,
Mm.
I'll keep you posted. No worries.
Yeah, thanks.
I think I've also enjoyed
Thank
the
you. Thank you
course.
so much.
Mhm.
There's always something new to learn with Excel.
Yes, there is. There is.
Good, good.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Emily.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Florence. Thank you for all the very,
Assistant teacher.
very good questions. I really enjoyed them. Okay, but anyway, this is just the beginning of the journey. If you have problems, especially at work, where you think that you're struggling to do something, just reach out to me and I'll try to help you out. And well, I'm pretty sure if you watch the videos over and over again, you'll be able to do so many things already with Excel at work, okay? But then if you hit roadblocks when you try to do those things, just let me know and I'll do what I can to help you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. Okay. See you in the next course.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good
See
Bye.
you
evening.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.